pleasure for me to be here with you guys today. Indeed, my name is Greg Koronikoff. I'm a senior sales engineer with the Sitefinity team, and I've been with the company for about 5 years now. What I want to do today for you guys is to show you how to use Sitefinity to jumpstart your ASP.NET projects and their development. So I'm going to start with a few answers to questions that I've already seen you guys ask inside of the chat box. Some people asked what Sitefinity is all about, so this is what we'll start with. We'll go through a brief overview of what Sitefinity is in a nutshell, and then I'm going to show you some more technical aspects of it, how you can boost your productivity, because what you're going to find out is that it is a familiar technology, so it's something that you all know too well, and you can use a familiar development environment to utilize it. Then we're going to go through discussion about the fast and easy delivery of functionality that your project might require and how to do that with Sitefinity. Then we'll go through some front-end eye candy. So if any one of you are using Bootstrap, Foundation, or Semantic UI, or other front-end networks, front-end frameworks, well, the choice is really yours. All of them could be used with Sitefinity, and I'll show you how. Then at last, depending on what time we have left, we'll dedicate it to some questions and answers, and we can get going. Now, first, before we proceed, can you guys confirm in the chat box that you can see my screen and you can hear me fine? I would hate if any of you are getting bad audio or anything like that. Can you guys see the screen and hear me fine? Lohit, if you can confirm as well.
I can see you. I can see your screen very well, and you are coming 5 by 5.
Excellent. Thank you. All right. So, and I see we have some confirmations on the chat box as well. So, let's start with a bit of an overview. What Sitefinity is in a nutshell. And I'm not going to bore you with any more slides today. It's just to keep track of where we are in today's agenda. But well, of course, we like to brag about the customers that we have, and we have a lot of big names on board. A lot of big websites, enterprise customers, enterprise portals, intranets, and extranets built with Sitefinity, and you can see some well-familiar names. Like we have AirAsia, we have NASA, Chevron, Panasonic, we have Aston Martin, we have Shell, and ING on board. So I'm not going to actually explain what Sitefinity is. I've learned by experience that it's much more useful to actually show you what Sitefinity is. So what I'm going to do today to show you what it is, I'm going to show you a website that was built with the Sitefinity CMS. So we like to call it Sitefinity is not only a content management system, but it's also a development platform, because it comes with a lot of functionality that is built in, but it also comes with unlimited extensibility options. There are so many extensibility points that you can use. Makes you. Now, before we get to that point, I want to just show you briefly what Sitefinity looks like and how it's used. So again, it's a tool that allows you to really easily create websites, to give power to the hands of the business users so that they could create their own pages, create their own content, and they don't have to be rocket scientists in order to do that. They can easily reuse their existing business knowledge, like experience with Microsoft Word and Office and things like that, and then they could build their own websites just using that knowledge. They don't have to undergo some really extensive training or learn some complex concepts and functionalities. Let me show you what that is all about. I'm just going to go and type /Sitefinity here and log into the Sitefinity backend, which looks like this. I'm not going to explain all the features for you because there are a lot of different functionalities, both marketing, content management, e-commerce, design functionalities, administration functionalities, but it might probably take me about a week or more to explain what all of these are about. I'm just going to go through some really basic day-to-day tasks that, well, of course, they are basic because of Sitefinity. Otherwise, they wouldn't be so easy to accomplish, but we'll make them easy. So what I wanted to show you is just the main concepts of Sitefinity here, not spending too much time on it, because this is more focused on the technical side of Sitefinity, so we'll spend more time on this. But the main concepts is that with Sitefinity you have different types of content, or modules as we call them. They're like self-contained applications that live inside of Sitefinity and help you manage different types of content like news, blogs, events, and so on. Now the idea of this is that you keep the content in one centralized location, and you can create your content, edit it, delete it, manage its properties like change permissions, approve content if it's going through some approval workflow, and go through revision history, and so on and so forth. So you create content from here, you update it from here, you make any changes, those are saved in a centralized location. Then when you go to the pages section, which is the other main part of the Sitefinity CMS, you have your sitemap illustrated right here. This sitemap is being inherited by the navigation, so any changes that you make to the sitemap, any new pages that you create, or any rearrangements that you make, they will be reflected typically by the navigation unless it's configured otherwise. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to create a new page. I'm going to call it Bangalore promo page. Just like that, we're taken to this easy wizard which asks us targeted questions. What's the name of the page? Where there it is. Then where would you like to put this page? At the top level along with these folks over here, or somewhere else under a parent page? So it can go in very deep somewhere inside of the navigation. And then you're in complete control over the URL, so you can change it any way you want. You can have control over title, description, and keywords, and so on. And one thing that we'll be focusing on today is you can easily just select a template that you'd like to use. By default, Sitefinity's templates could be based on standard master files and cascading style sheets. So any HTML or CSS template that you download from the internet, purchase it or get it for free from somewhere, you can plug it right into Sitefinity. It's really easy to do, and we have really short videos which take you step by step how to do that. So I'll just use that template, create the page, start adding content. There's some styling and some elements that would drag and drop on the template, like header, footer, logo, and things like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill out this central part with some content. Now, as you can see here, we have two buttons. One is called Content, the other one is called Layouts. Now, typically, if you need to create some sort of complex layout, you might either need to call a designer to help you out with that, or you need to have CSS and HTML knowledge. Well, at least that's the case with other CMSs. With Sitefinity, anybody can start dragging and dropping different layout blocks from these guys, just like that. Resize them, change spaces. Maybe we'll put 30 pixels between those two boxes. You see how that increased. We can change CSS classes because those all render as div elements. We can change their CSS classes or apply some labels to those. Then another thing that you can do is just drag and drop more layouts. You can you can also nest them one inside the other. And just to quickly answer a question from the audience, yes, this is all core capabilities and features of Sitefinity. This all comes out of the box. All the modules that you will see, all the functionality, everything comes out of the box. And you actually have access to this project that I'm working on so that you can take it, experiment with it, do the same thing that I'm doing right now. Now what I'm going to do is just drag and drop some content widgets. When I switch to content mode, we see a huge number of different widgets that we have in here. And just for your information, widgets is what we call standard .NET controls. So just for business friendliness, for those are the business non-scary name for business users. You could go ahead and use all those different controls, or you can create your own custom ones. And there's a question in the audience, besides news and blog, can we have our own custom page type? So custom content types are absolutely possible to be created, and this is something that we will be getting to later on during today's demo. So I'm just going to complete this page really quickly, just by dragging and dropping a few widgets. For example, I'm going to drag and drop this this image widget on my page, and I have a couple of options. And this illustrates the concept that I mentioned before. You can either select an image that was already uploaded into Sitefinity, and just to remind you, the content resides under the content section. All the images are stored here in different libraries, and you can organize them, you can upload more, and so on. So you can use any of those images that we have already uploaded and browse through the different libraries, or search for an image, or we can upload an image right from our computer. And this is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to select an image, one of these. For example, I'll drag and drop this one, choose which library this should go into. I'll choose the default library, upload it. This image is being uploaded right away. I can also edit the image right on the fly, so I'll just crop it a little bit, and notice that I'm doing all of this through my browser. So this is something anybody could do without the need of Photoshop or Paint or any other tools like that. So I'm going to publish this and stick it into my page. Okay, there we go. Now, in this content block, I'm going to copy and paste some content from Microsoft Word, and what you're going to see is that I don't have to clean this this document. All the formatting, like headings, common bullet lists, and standard page elements are going to be preserved. However, the HTML code is going to be automatically cleaned out straight away. You don't have to move a finger to do any of that. And I'm going to wrap this page with a few more widgets. Let me just rearrange this one. Just resizing those 3 columns, and I'm going to drag and drop, for example, a news widget, which is going to pull news items from my news module, and I'm just going to configure how the widget would behave. So I'll just configure the news widget to show only news items that were tagged with a specific word. I want no more than 2 items per page, and the rest will be available using a pager. And I want to change the template so that I don't see just a title, a brief summary, and some date, but I also want to see the thumbnails of each news item. And I just configure that, and it happens right away. It just works. Then let me just drag and drop also an image gallery. I'll just again configure the image gallery to pull images from a specific library which were uploaded in the content section here. I don't want more than maybe 4 images per page, and I want those images to appear in a thumbnail list with a lightbox effect. Alright, and I'll also drag and drop an events widget which pulls event items from the events module, again, which is located here. And I'm just going to configure that widget to show all my events in the calendar view, and people would be able to subscribe to my events. So in a nutshell, this is the kind of page that we just created in a matter of 4 minutes, only by dragging and dropping. This is the page as it would appear on desktop devices. And bearing in mind that Sitefinity has a built-in mobile responsive capabilities, you can also preview the page on different mobile devices, and it automatically is going to render fine on different devices like iPhones. Notice that also the navigation could change and be converted into mobile-friendly navigation. And also, as you can see, as it's responsive, you might have just one column for mobile devices, because it would be the only thing that would fit on the screen and make it appear good. But on tablets, we can have 2 columns, and then our 3 columns can be converted into 2 columns and then 1 more below that. It's all based on the responsive mobile engine that is built into Sitefinity. And for those of you who are asking, it's easy for you to get a website like that prepared. You can also take this specific example website and start working with it. We will share all that necessary information after the webinar. So I wanted to show you the basic capabilities of Sitefinity, like page creation, content creation, just so that you have an idea how easy it is for business users to work with that software. Now, for developers, we all know too well that when you get a CMS, regardless of what the CMS is, there is also very specific custom functionalities that are required by our specific project right now. And what we have to do is we have to build something more custom and plug it into the CMS. Typically, this is a big hurdle with a lot of CMSs out there because they require proprietary technology, they require proprietary logic, they have their own APIs that you have to get acquainted to, and this pretty much is a problem because there is something new that you have to learn and something new you have to get accommodated to. This is not the case with Sitefinity. And let me give you a couple of examples. Let me just get back to our slides here. I'll be talking now about the productivity boost because Sitefinity is a familiar technology and you can plug it and use it within a familiar environment. So, all those different widgets that you have here, as we mentioned, they are all standard .NET controls. And let's say, for example, you have the case where you need to extend the Sitefinity CMS, and you have this requirement. Your employer or whoever has given you the project has told you, well, we need to pull information from our own proprietary database, and you need to display it on the page somewhere. Okay, let's see how that goes. I'll just publish this page so that we have it ready. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the folder which contains the Sitefinity CMS. Now, one thing that is quite important for us to note here is that Sitefinity is nothing more but a .NET web application, and you can treat it as one. As you can see, we have the bin folder which has all the assemblies which carry our business logic. We have the app data folder with a bunch of configuration files here. As this project is working with a SQL Express database, this is where it's located. We have the web config file which contains some major configurations for our project, and there's a CSproj file that will be automatically generated with Sitefinity. So when you create the first instance of your CMS, this CSproj file will appear, so you can just open that project with your Visual Studio, and what happens next is that Visual Studio gets launched. Okay, I'm in this one. And your Sitefinity web app blends into it natively. So it automatically plugs into Visual Studio, and you can start working with it and start treating it as a standard .NET web application. Okay, what task do we have? We had to create a new custom widget. Let me just refresh our page, go to the Bangalore promo page, and we need to plug in some information taken from our third-party database. I'm going to also open my SQL Management Studio just to show you that I have another database plugged in there. It's called, well, you probably know it, it's the Northwind database by Microsoft. So what I'm going to do is use it for our source of data. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and when I open my project with Visual Studio, I'm just going to create a new folder. and I'm going to call it just custom widgets. And in there, I'm going to add a new item. At first, what I'm going to do is add a new standard web user control. I'm just going to call it data grid widget. Adding this to our project, and then brings us a standard web user control. Okay, nothing new, nothing standard, nothing strange here. This is something that we're used to working with. Then what I'm going to do is, probably some of you have already worked with the Telerik controls. There is a large suite of Telerik UI controls. We call those the ASP.NET Ajax controls. I'm going to use one of these. For example, I'm going to use the red grid and use it within my widget here. I'm just going to use it for demo purposes. It is built into Sitefinity. You can use the full suite of the Telerik controls right away, or you can use your own your other set of controls, the standard .NET controls that ship with Visual Studio, or something else. That's completely up to you. Alright, now what I'm going to do, just for the sake of speed, because we have a lot of things to cover today, I'm just going to bind this grid to my database client side really quickly right here in my SCX user control. So let's see, we can choose the data source, and I'll use that external database as our data source. So it's going to be a database, and it's the Northwind data, so I'm going to use the Northwind data connection string to it. Right now it's loading all my tables, so I'll choose the products table right away. And this is the type of information that we should be getting from this external database. When I click finish, you'll see that the data connection string will be plugged right over here. So you can see we're just making a quick select from some database, from some table in our database. So nothing strange here. Also, I'm going to add a few more options here, like enable paging, sorting, and so on. So all those are features of the Telerik red grid. And this is our widget. So there's nothing proprietary here, nothing custom. Everything would work both outside of Sitefinity and inside of it. So there's nothing Sitefinity specific for this control so far. Now, there are a couple of things that I could do. I should now build my solution. And also, what I only need to do is plug in this new control inside of Sitefinity. And that's something that's really easy to do, because there is a free Visual Studio plugin which I'm going to talk about shortly. It's called Sitefinity Thunder, and we will provide you with the links to that. It allows you to do a lot of things and make your life really easier, be really more productive within your Visual Studio when working with Sitefinity. Just as an example, what I'm going to do today with this, or do right now with it, I'm going to scan my project for any custom controls that I have created. And if that tool finds any controls, it will prompt me if I want to plug those into my project right away. So it's doing the scanning right now, and anytime now we should see the data grid widget appearing on our screen. There it is. And I'll choose, I would like to add it to our toolbox inside Sitefinity. I'll call it the data grid widget. And from the different toolbox sections that we had, I'll just create a new one and call it, let's see, I'll call it Jumpstart widgets. And this is what our section in our toolbox is going to be named. I'm just going to click finish, and then I can start using that widget right into my CMS. Now, I mentioned Sitefinity Thunder, and I mentioned that it's a free Visual Studio plugin. It's really, really powerful and really, really useful, because apart from just registering controls that you've created inside of Sitefinity, it'll give you a lot more flexibility. So when you add a new item, you can use that tool to create Sitefinity website templates. It's going to create the full file and folder structure, as well as some sample code that you can review and you can start tweaking, customizing to your needs. You can also create different widgets, and Sitefinity Thunder can create also designers, which is that dialog box, which allows you to configure each widget inside of a Sitefinity page. So we can also create a lot of different other tools. Right now we're working with an ASP.NET Web Forms control, but Sitefinity can also host MVC widgets. So if you prefer the MVC design pattern, you can use that as well. And this is something that we will be using throughout today's demo as well. Right. So after you can choose which functionality you'd like to include in Sitefinity, choose the one, add it, and Thunder will create all the necessary structure and sample code for you. Then whenever you're ready, let us get back to our Bangalore promo page, and then we'll see what happens now. What we can do is we will be able to see our new, let's just take a look. Okay, let me just build it, and let me just make sure that we build this successfully. Okay. So what we should be able to do now is we should be able to see our new section right into our CMS, and we should be able to see our new widget right in there. Maybe just so that it happens, I need to make a quick change in my web config file, just make a blank change to reset my project, and we should be good to go. Now, there's nothing custom that we have done so far, and as I mentioned, this new custom widget that we created, that should be working outside of Sitefinity as well. And just to address some questions that came up in the meantime, yes, the full suite of the red controls comes with Sitefinity, and you will be able to plug it in into your Visual Studio Toolbox straight away. You'll be able to use them with no additional licenses required. Also, Kendo UI web controls could be used in there as well. They are also part of Sitefinity, and you will be able to implement them within your own UI elements that you'd like to add to Sitefinity. Right, and apart from new custom widgets, you can also add, let me just add a new project here. And as you can see, apart from just new widgets, you can also add new custom modules right away from here, so that you have complete control over the whole code of Sitefinity, the whole code of your custom modules, and you will be able to add any custom logic in there. So in the meantime, let's just go ahead and open up our page. We'll see that now we have a new section here. It's called Jumpstart Widgets. And in there we have our data grid widget, which we created together. I'm just going to drag and drop it over here somewhere, maybe somewhere at the top of my page. And what happens now is that the ASP.NET red grid is being pulled up, and that red grid connects to a third-party database, and it pulls all the information from there. We have sorting, paging, we have filtering. This is all something that is part of the red grid. This is all something that we are utilizing in our CMS, but now we have the option to drag and drop it anywhere we want, to configure it anywhere we want. If we want, we have full control over the code behind of this data grid widget. So if we want to create any event handlers, any custom logic, we can plug it right in there, and it will just work. So it's quite flexible, and it's quite straightforward. Another benefit is that we inherit from different Sitefinity built-in functionalities right away. For example, permissions. We inherit automatically the whole permissions model, and we can actually specify who can view this widget, because we can assign this to different users or groups, which in .NET is called roles. So we can assign permissions to any one of these widgets. You can also pass this page through workflow so that it gets approved before it goes live. This is also something that you automatically inherit right away. Okay, let's publish our page and see where we are. Okay, we don't need this, we need that. Alright, so we saw how to create a new custom widget. We saw that it's pretty straightforward and it's quite user-friendly. It is nothing complex, it is nothing that you're not familiar with. It's standard .NET user or custom controls. Then you can use and you can create those through a very familiar environment. Visual Studio development environment automatically takes Sitefinity and plugs it in, and you can start using it straight away. Right. This was a new custom widget, which was just a web part which you drag and drop on a page, and then you can represent some sort of information through it. Now, what happens when you like to create a new custom module or a custom content type? This is something that most projects out there require. You need something custom to plug into your CMS so that your business users or your customers would be able to start creating their own content, which is very specific for their project. Like, for example, in this case, when we have this sample website which apparently ships some sort of gadgets like tablets and notebooks and monitors and things like that, let's create a new custom functionality, a custom content type, which would be relevant for this kind of website. So if they sell gadgets, let's create a new module, a new content type, and call it resellers, which would be a listing of people who are reselling the gadgets by this manufacturer. Now what I have to do is, I can also do this through the Sitefinity UI because that would speed my time tremendously. We have the dynamic module builder, and what it does is it allows me to create dynamic modules. What does that mean? I can create a new module. I'll call it Quantum Resellers. And this module, I can create a content type under it. I'll call this content type again reseller. And then I can choose what fields I'd like to have in there. What Sitefinity will do while I'm adding all those different fields is going to create a new table inside of the Sitefinity database for that specific module, and it's going to create different columns for each field. Now, let's go ahead and create, we have title, we'll add another field called description, and this is going to be of type long text. You can choose what interface you like to use for entering the data. For this, I will use maybe a rich text editor, and there we go. I can make this field required if I want to, so that nobody can create a new reseller without necessarily filling out that field. I'll create a new field, and I'll call it maybe, let's see. I'll actually have a couple of fields like, is this reseller active? Oops, sorry. Wrong button there. Okay, there we go. Is this reseller active? And that could be a Boolean yes/no field. It will be represented by a checkbox. Okay, we're good. Let's add a couple more. So let's see. We'll add a bit of classifications, like we can use departments, categories, tags, or custom classification of our choice. Those are all things that are indeed built into Sitefinity. I'll add one more. I'll add categories as well. And let's see. Well, what do we have left? Well, we'll add an address field so that we'll put the address of this specific reseller. And this is something that is an integration with Google Maps, and it will be represented by an address form and a map. And last but not least, what I'm going to do is, yeah, we can actually put a picture, so photo of this reseller, and I'll use the Sitefinity ability to relate content types. So I will use a related media field, and I'll say that you can choose images from the already created images module in Sitefinity and pull images from there, which would serve as the photo for this reseller. Okay. Right. I think we're pretty much good to go. We'll just call this photo. And last but not least, we'll use another related data field, which is going to create another relation between this content type and another one. For example, the content type called stores, so that we would be able to associate which reseller works with which stores, which we already have inside of Sitefinity. So I'll call this related stores. And that's pretty much it. We created a really complex module, which we'll now finalize, we'll activate it. And another developer eye candy that I always love about Sitefinity is that apart from just being able to create that new content type, Sitefinity automatically generates the API for it. And apart from just generating the API, it provides you with the documentation for it. You can see code, code samples, and you will be able to see samples on how to create a new content item, delete it, get a collection of items by, or get an item by ID, get a collection of them, publish them, and so on. This is all shipping with Sitefinity. So that is absolutely fabulous functionality when you start creating new content types. You can create your own custom widgets just the way we did it before, and you can use those code samples to just create any kind of functionality and create any widgets which would be interfacing with your module. So that is something that all comes out of the box. And now, since I'm using a specific version of Sitefinity which allows me to host multiple websites, I'll just activate or enable this module for the website that we were currently working with. And this is our Quantum Resellers module that we just created together. When we click on that, we can open it up, we can start creating new content items right in there, and well, the magic just happened. So let's call this one maybe Lohith. Great engineer within the Telerik team. Is this reseller active? Absolutely. We can put tags like great IT guy. We'll put a comma, Bangalore, and we'll just add those different tags right in there. Then we can also apply categories, create new categories on the fly. Then we can apply address to this. We can just select a country. That's going to be interesting. Let's try with India. Hey, Luhif, could you help me out? So you're located in Bangalore, right?
Correct.
All right. Give me a zip code.
560.
Or maybe a 560.
011.
011.
Yep.
And then some kind of street.
Just
see you on the map right. Yeah.
Just say Jayanagar, Jaya Nagar, yeah. One word.
Okay.
It should pick it up. There you go.
There you go. There you go. Now everybody in this webinar knows exactly where you
Where
are.
I stay. Yep.
And exactly. And Sitefinity helped us out with that. Now we'll add a photo. We'll do this quickly. Let's see. I'm not sure if I have your photo here, but we'll make our best pick. And then we can relate Lohith with a few different stores that we have. For example, Quantum Cambridge, Quantum Chicago, Quantum Houston. So those are all different content items and that we have here under another module within Sitefinity. So those are other content types. We can just create a relation between those. And see, this is exactly what I meant by productivity and boosting your productivity and fast and easy delivery of functionality. If your project requires a custom content type, you can really easily create a new custom one just like that, and you will be able to plug it right into Sitefinity. You can also customize the way it looks on the back end, and also Sitefinity would automatically create a new widget for us so that we can represent that content type on the front end as well. So if we go to the Bangalore promo page, I'll just delete that widget really quickly. And instead, we'll see that we have the Quantum Resellers section now. We have the Resellers widget. If we drag and drop it, it will give us a listing of those different resellers right away. Then we can also customize the widget's template from Visual Studio. We can customize its behavior. We can create a new custom widget which would be relevant to this reseller module. We can use filtering to filter the content that we'll be listing here. And last but not least, it gives us the option to display content both in list mode, like just a listing of items. And then when I click on the content item itself, it can give us the ability to display the content item in its full detail view. So we'll be able to see the map, where exactly Lohith is located, all the settings, like is he active? Sure. What is the description? There he is. What is the address? Well, there you go. Any tags, any categories, the photo, and the related stores which this reseller is kind of working with. And this is something that we were able to do just within a matter of a few minutes. So that is really how easy it is to create a new custom functionality and plug it right into the CMS, thus boosting your productivity. So having that said, you probably noticed that we were working mostly with web form widgets right now, or in web form functionality. And also, there are a lot of front-end developers out there that have already packaged their own instances of Bootstrap or Foundation or maybe Semantic UI. And what they want to do is just use their own pre-created templates and plug them into Sitefinity. And again, this is absolutely doable. Now, you know that with MVC you have complete control over the output of your website. So the HTML is completely under your control. And you might also have created some customizations of Bootstrap which you'd like to reuse. This is something that is absolutely supported in Sitefinity. There are a few more benefits that we will discuss right here, but I'll first of all show you those guys right away. Now, to illustrate how that works, because this, what I've been doing right now, this is a web form project, I'll abandon it for now, and we'll switch to another project that is also available for you to download and work with. It's called the Dev Magazine. It's a website which is built entirely in MVC, and it's a website that allows you to, again, it's based on Sitefinity, but you have complete control over the output. Let me just show you the page source, show you how clean the code is. So you have, this is where the HTML starts, we have the different divs, you have the navigation, you have the content, and this is pretty much it. No excessive scripts, no excessive view states, stacks, nothing like that. It's completely under your control. Then how is it different? Well, it uses the same core functionality. It uses the same interface. You have the same kind of everything is, oops, sorry, this is the Quantum. Let me just log in here. So it uses the same interface, it features the same functionalities. You could create the same, you could create custom content types just the same easy way. All right. But there are a few differences. And let me just do the same thing again. I will open that new project, Dev Magazine. I'll open the solution with my Visual Studio. And this is what it looks like. Now, I have created a few custom functionalities to it just to illustrate a few concepts in here. So, first of all, Sitefinity supports different front-end frameworks, and this is how we do it. We have prepared a few packages which are available for you to download. We have packaged Bootstrap, Semantic UI, and others, and you can plug them right into Sitefinity. There are some conventions which are going to automatically create different page templates for you. Now, for example, as you can see here, I have plugged some resource packages like Bootstrap Foundation and Semantic UI right in there. And what you're going to have is complete utilization of the JavaScript, the CSS, and the fonts of Bootstrap or any front-end frameworks of your choice. You'll have them plugged into Sitefinity, and they will not fight with the built-in, they will not conflict with the built-in logic in Sitefinity. They would, including a new package inside of Sitefinity would automatically generate a new page template for you, so that the Bootstrap default template will be automatically plugged in right here. So this will come by default. And you will be able to use all of those different layout combinations that Bootstrap gives you out of the box. Again, you have the same layout builder, but instead of using the built-in layout blocks, you can use the ones that come with Bootstrap. So those should look pretty familiar. But again, this uses the standard Bootstrap CSS, and let me just show you. Right, there we go. So we have the same Bootstrap CSS, which is located right in here. Okay. You have the same Bootstrap fonts, and then that grid system that we have just plugged it into Sitefinity so that it's even easier to use and implement. Okay. You can still use the dynamic content modules, and there are widgets which would be automatically generated so that you would represent the data that you store in those different content modules. In this case, however, I have created a few custom widgets which would represent different content types right here from within Sitefinity. Now, I have created a few content types like authors and issues, because as this is a dev magazine, you have different articles by different authors, and each issue of the dev magazine, so if it's a magazine that we kind of we distribute, each issue has different articles. Those are all illustrated right in here. They are pretty much related content types again, and I have created different widgets which would allow you to represent those different content types on the front end, show their relation between each other, and so on. Now you have different approaches, so you can take a look at different articles divided by topic, like web, testing, clouds, and so on. Or you can see how those topics were combined into different issues of the Dev magazine. This is again based on relationship between those different content types. But the widgets that actually display those are plugged right into Sitefinity, and I have created those as custom widgets which are based on MVC. So what is important for us to notice here? For all the widgets that we have within this project, we have plugged them, we have created them as external, like additional projects to the same solution. And the best thing here is that we have complete separation of business logic and design-related logic. So the logic that we want to plug in our widgets is located right here. You can take a look at the controller right away. You can take a look at, they have their own models and views, which could be based on, the models could be based easily on, for example, so the views, apologize. So the views could be based on any templating architecture, like they can be Razor templates or anything else of your choice for that matter. Now, for another thing that is really interesting for us to find out is that the custom logic this way could be completely isolated from the Sitefinity logic. Now, the core Sitefinity DLLs are located right in here. And when you do your testing, you can test your own external widgets right away. And you can mock a lot of information. You don't have to mix it with Sitefinity. Another thing that is awesome is that you can just package those as distributable DLLs, which you can then take and reuse in your next project. Now, one thing that I wanted to show you specifically is that for this specific project, I've used the Ninject dependency injection approach. So if we take a look at any one of our controllers, you can see that we are not hard coding any logic in there. What we're doing is that we are implementing an interface apart from just hard coding a specific model. And this interface we can use dependency injections, and I have done this through Ninject controller. So I have just mapped and registered the implementation for each interface. So that interface would be used within the lifecycle of our implementation. As you can see here, for this interface, I have mapped this specific model, which is again located in my project. But what I can do whenever I'm testing something is I can change the model to something else right here, and I can mock something so that I don't have to use a specific database. I can just use some sample data, which I can plug right into my project and test using that, which is great for testing purposes. It allows me to really separate my custom functionality from my core functionality, isolate it, test it. I don't even have to integrate it with the databases and so on. I can mock all my data models and just perform my users testing, my my unit tests and so on, which is following designer best practices. Right, so let's take a look at how that really works in the backend. So if we open any one of these pages that we have, we'll see, for example, if we open our home page where we have some different widgets, we see that we have a news widget right in here, which is again something that right now is coming out of the box. So we have also an MVC version of our news widget, and it is using Candy UI for its designer. And then those are all our custom widgets, which we have complete control of. All the views are all the views are being predefined by our code that we have plugged into the project itself. All right, and let's see if I'm missing something about that specifically. So those widgets are working with our dynamic content modules, and they represent the data that we have stored in there. We have mentioned the dependency injection, and let's see. Yep, a couple of things. You can isolate your business logic from the design-related logic. So if you have some some code you like that you like to execute, some business logic, you can just outsource it in an external project, so a project outside of your core Sitefinity web application. In this case, we have some JavaScript that we have also created here, things which allow us to, for example, add special effects to maybe the search functionality that we have in here and so on. But again, we can isolate this from, for example, the JavaScript that we have inside of the Bootstrap framework. So everything is completely isolated, everything is completely testable on its own, and since we can reuse a lot of Sitefinity's functionality, like for example the authentication mechanisms, we can reuse workflows, we can reuse permissions. That gives us great flexibility and extreme productivity boost. Okay, so now what I wanted to do, let me just get back to my slides. Yep, so the final thing is, once you, as you know, once you compile your custom functionalities, they would enter as DLLs, so you can distribute them and reuse them in any external project that you have. Additionally, there are some interesting details about Sitefinity. So if you want to plug different views right into the Sitefinity web app project, like for example in this case, let me just open some of those views. You see that we have some views for the news widget, for the navigation widgets, and so on. Those are all views that we have plugged into the Sitefinity web app project, because we don't have to compile those in order to make some changes. If we make some changes here, and we can directly test those right on the front end without having to recompile the whole project and wait for the initial startup time. It's not entirely, this is not the case when you plug it inside of your own additional projects to the same solution, because you have to compile them first. They would enter Sitefinity as DLLs, and then you will be able to see how those work on the front end. But both are options, and it's entirely up to you. Now, I mentioned this JavaScript that we had right here. So what I do, the JavaScript that we have added additionally for styling the search. So here's how that works. Let me just show you what we have done in here. When we just search for something, we get some results, and all that is an additional JavaScript that we have added to this project, which we can test additionally, and it is completely separate for the JavaScripts that are coming with the Bootstrap libraries. Okay, I know that we're on the top of the hour, so what I'm going to do right now is give you the floor for some questions, anything that you'd like to know more about. I know that Lohith was taking care of your questions in the meantime. I'm just going to share a few of the more interesting ones with the rest of the audience. Right, to use this functionality, do I need to register somewhere, download something as open source for tailored customers? So if you're asking about those two projects that I showed you, we'll be following up with additional materials. They are all located on GitHub, so you can download them and start using them straight away. All you need to have, though, is a Sitefinity license, maybe a trial license for that matter, and you can download one from, you can download a free trial from the Sitefinity website.
Hey Greg, there's one interesting one here. So does Sitefinity provide any migration wizard for migration from other CMS, for example, maybe Drupal?
Right. I know of some migration tools, for example, from WordPress. I know that some of our service partners, like companies that we work with, they have provided such tools. In general, there is no such tool that ships out of the box or has been created by tech Telerik per se, but we have an open API which you can use to plug in any content. We have web services that are coming out of the box with Sitefinity, and you can use those to connect to Sitefinity and plug content right in there. Or you can use the API. If you can export content from your current tool or from your database, you can plug that content into Sitefinity. It will be really easy.
Another one I see is I see analytics in screen somewhere. So what analytics info does it provide? Can Google Analytics be used in it and can fetch reports from it?
Absolutely. Now, the built-in analytics that ship with Sitefinity, they are based on Google Analytics. So if you want to use your Google Analytics with Sitefinity, there is a built-in widget which you just paste your Google tracking code in. You can do that on the template level so that you don't have to do this for each individual page. And then there are built-in analytics that actually are fed by your Google Analytics account, and all the statistics that you get in here, which you can review right like this, or in different views like this, they are being, all those analytics are being provided by Google.
Okay. And I have one more here. It says, on Sitefinity, can I add a reference to my ASP.NET MVC project and start using it commercially?
That depends on what exactly you have built so far, but yes, you can, as you can see, this is what we've been doing today. We have our own MVC projects. You can add them to this whole solution, add some references, and start using it straight away. This is exactly what we have done in the Dev Magazine project.
What databases can I use to store dynamic data, especially with respect to Sitefinity backend, as a store?
Understood. Sure. So Sitefinity ships with again, a proprietary ORM client, so an object relational mapping client. It's called Open Access, and currently out of the box we support SQL, Microsoft SQL Server, Microsoft SQL Express, Microsoft SQL Azure, Oracle, and MySQL. So there are 5 different database engines that come out of the box, and more can be added in if needed.
Okay, this is a pretty good one that I have now. Are there any idea for Linux version to be out there in the future? That is Sitefinity software for the Linux.
That's a good question. Now, Sitefinity is a .NET web application, so it requires the .NET framework. I've seen Sitefinity work with Mono, so that's the port for the .NET framework. But since it's not entirely official, well, it's not extensively tested. We do not guarantee the success when using Mono, but we definitely have seen people use that before. So that's one approach you can take or you can try, but we guarantee support for the .NET framework and an operating system that it would work on.
Okay, I think there's one general question that everybody has been asking. So with Sitefinity, we ship RAT controls, but what is the context in which those RAT controls can be used? Is it only within Sitefinity, or can I just take the RAT controls, build my own standalone ASP.NET project and start using it? So what is the usage terminologies here?
Yeah, I understood the question. So the Telerik RAT controls are shipped within Sitefinity. They're part of the Telerik web UI that is shipped within the bin folder of Sitefinity. As soon as I find it somewhere here, there we go. But however, in order for it to work, you have to use it in the context of Sitefinity. That grid widget that I created, it works within Sitefinity so that it does not produce any trial messages and so on. It will just work as is. But if you try to use the Telerik web UI outside of Sitefinity, there will be a message that this is a trial and you need a licensed version of the Telerik web UI controls in order for you to use them without any trial messages.
Okay. Does Sitefinity have email capability, say for user registration, newsletter, RSS?
Yep, absolutely. And if you download the Quantum project that I demonstrated before, you will be able to see it. Let me just I think there was, so the functionality can be seen right here. So we have full-blown email capabilities, and there is an option for people to register. All those widgets and functionalities, again, they come out of the box. You don't have to develop them from scratch.
Okay. What is the capability of Sitefinity in terms of workflows?
Now, Sitefinity is based on the Windows Workflow Foundation 4. There are several aspects to it. I mean, any XAML workflow that you'd like to use with Sitefinity, you can just plug it in. You can customize the built-in workflows to add your own nodes, to add your own logic, your own event handlers. Out of the box, there are also interfaces for you to create workflows, like approver workflows, which could be 1 or 2 level of approval, so that you can easily go ahead and choose what users should be the approvers, or what groups of users should be the approvers that should be notified by email whenever an item is waiting for their approval, and what scope of content they are responsible for. This is all built in, but if you need to do something more specific and something more complex, this is also possible using standard Windows Workflow Foundation for workflows. We have documentation on that, which is available on our website.
Okay, I think we're going to take the last one, and then I'll stop the webinar video, but I'll keep the window open for some more time so that people can just put the question. So the last one is Sitefinity only limited for CMS only?
Well, Sitefinity is a content management platform, but it's not necessarily to be used only for websites or intranets. We know that now. I'm not sure which. I think there was I know that they're using it for Heathrow Express for a portal, and they were using it for air traffic control system again somewhere on the island, some airport on the island. So it was not a website, a web platform that is used for the website, but for their system for air traffic control. So the usages could vary. We have people using it to create social networks. We have people using it to create CRM systems. So it's not just for management of websites, but a lot more.
Okay, that's pretty good information that you gave us today, Greg. That was a very wonderful session. I learned something new today. So thank you very much to you, Greg. And I'm going to stop the webinar now. So thank you to each one of you who made it to the webinar. Hope you had a good learning today. And if you want to jumpstart your ASP.NET, now you know what you can do. Just download Sitefinity. We have a free trial available. Just go to www.sitefinity.com. And we look forward to your presence in our future webinars. Go to www.telrichelper.net to get a schedule. We have our next webinar on 18th of December. So thank you very much and have a good weekend.
It was a pleasure for me to be with you guys today. You were a great audience, and we'll be in touch. Cheers. Bye.